Good evening, visitors, and welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Dan Hiscock, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Major Brendan Gledhill. This evening, we warmly welcome the Canberra Convention Bureau delegation who are in attendance. And as always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Service Clubs Association, and we welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Hawkesbury Independent School from Currajong, New South Wales. Now, if you're able, I invite you all to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Thank you. If you wish to and you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Jack Milne, who was killed during the Second World War. Jack Milne was born on the 28th of November 1922 in Dandenong, Victoria, to William and Amy Milne. He had 3 sisters, Gladys, Hazel and Joan. Their father was a brickmaker. After school, Milne worked first as a shop assistant and boilermaker, and then as a carpenter with Boot and Davidson in Dandenong. On the 15th of May 1942, aged 19, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force and trained as a pilot. Milne embarked for overseas service from Sydney on the 25th of May 1943, arriving in Canada later that year. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 RAAF pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners and flight engineers who joined Australian and British squadrons in Britain throughout the course of the war. After months of training in Canada, Milne received his wings, which was reported proudly in the local paper back home. He left for the United Kingdom in October 1943 for further specialist training, and in April 1944 he was promoted to flight sergeant. He gained experience flying Harvard, Oxford, Wellington and Stirling bombers. On the 10th of May, he became engaged to Werner Bell of Dandenong. That August, Milne was commissioned as a pilot officer, and in December, he was made flying officer and posted to number 463 Squadron, Royal Australian Air Force. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew the 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bomber. Just after midnight on the 5th of January 1944, Bomber Command launched a raid to destroy a well-entrenched German garrison at Royan on the west coast of France. There were fears that this seaside fortress could operate U-boats, and it was proving difficult to overcome. Flying Officer Milne was the pilot of Lancaster JOR, which took off from Royal Air Force Base in Waddington, some 40 minutes after midnight. Of the 16 aircraft committed to the mission by number 463 Squadron, Milne's Lancaster was the only one that failed to return. It was later determined that Lancaster JOR had collided with another from number 106 Squadron, RAF, before breaking into and crashing within the target area. There were no survivors. Those killed along with Flying Officer Jack Milne were fellow Australians, Warrant Officer William Simpson, Flight Sergeants Charles Fincham, Sydney Brown, John Prince, Charles Walters, along with British Sergeant Ernest Freeman. After the war, the remains of Commonwealth servicemen buried in Europe were examined and identified where possible. However, the aircraft's wreckage had been partially destroyed in the bombing, and only the bodies of Milne, Fincham, Prince and Freeman could be identified. They were buried in Royan Roman Catholic Cemetery, and Milne rests under the inscription, "Ever Remembered." He was 22 years old. Jack Milne was dearly missed by his family and friends back home, who placed in memoriam notices in the newspaper for years after his death. He was described by his friend and fellow airman, Corporal Jack Llewellyn, as every inch an officer. Flying Officer Jack Milne's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, along with almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Jack Milne, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. And at the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We'll leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub of Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, the staff and the volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. Wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.